Hello everyone, Kevin Stevenson here with GetMeTheGeek.com, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about TrueNAS Scale. And what we're going to do today is do a little Docker. So one of the things that I've discovered, and lots of people are complaining about, and everything, is that the restriction of port 9000 and above on TrueNAS Scale when it comes to the Kubernetes and all the Docker stuff in there. So this little tutorial is going to show you a quick way to work around that, so where you don't have to use a 9000 plus port, and you can go ahead and produce a Docker image that does whatever port you like. All right, so let's get started. All right, so here we are. Here we are in our TrueNAS Scale, and what's the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here to apps. And then, of course, you have all the available apps, and you have launched Docker image. So this is just a plain Docker image. We're going to use Nginx as our Docker image. So Nginx test, that's what we're going to call it. And Nginx latest, we're going to pull that guy. Entry point, we're going to leave those blank. Environment variables, we're going to leave all this blank because this is going to be just a simple straight up web server. Okay, so here's where we do something different. In networking, we're going to choose our interface. I'm going to set it to DHCP, but if you want to keep this around, you're going to want to use the static IP address if you're going to want to use it for more than one thing. So DHCP, it's going to get an IP address that's on my network. That's not going to be the IP address of the Docker image. And so you go ahead and hit next. Port forwarding. So this is where you want to add something, and this is where it gives you the error. Valid ports must be greater than 9000. So we're going to go ahead and just X that out. When you leave that off and you have your own static IP address, it's all available. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. We're going to just leave all this stuff normal, next, 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 next through all this stuff, and hit save. And it's going to create this Docker image, right? And it's going to spin it up. So we'll read that just a second here to do that. Boom. Okay, so now we'll go back over to install apps. You're going to see the Nginx test machine set up that I am deploying, right? That's going to take a second. It's getting the latest, it's 22081. And here in a moment. Oh, look, see, it's active. Okay, it's active, right? So now you're going to go over here and you go to the logs, and we're going to, oops, my bad. Click on this thing, and it's going to pop up this information: active, pods, blah, 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 container images, application events. So we're just going to go ahead and look at some of these things here. Application events. Now, right here is the IP address that it pulled. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. And boom, there's our Nginx on port 80, right? And that's all there is to it. So I didn't have to use port 9000. It got its own IP address, and it basically gets around that issue. Now, there are other ways to use this, using the Kubernetes and the ingresses and all that stuff, but this is just a quick search around, quick work around if you want to get into that Docker image. Now, let's go ahead and do Nginx Proxy Manager. So Nginx Proxy Manager is pretty cool. So here is what we need, right? Normally, you do all these things. It's going to be port 80, 81, 443, and then here are the volumes. I'm going to skip all this stuff, and I'm just going to get this Docker image, right? So I'm going to go launch Docker. I'm going to call this Nginx Proxy Manager, right? We're going to have to say this is the image. We're going to get the latest. Boom, boom, boom. Networking, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose that DHCP, right? Go down here. Now we're just going to next through the whole thing. All right, so that you see is deploying now also. So we're going to give that just a minute to deploy. And then we're going to look at that IP address again. We're going to go to port 81, which is the management port. So yeah, 80 and 81. So we're going to go to 80 first and 81. Okay. Active, right? So we click on this guy, go down here to the log events, and this is our IP address. And there it is. Nginx Proxy Manager, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to change this to 80, 81. And there you're going to get your default logins, which is going to be these. And there we are. Now you're in the Nginx Proxy Manager, and you can add hosts and everything just like you would. Keep in mind that if you want to keep those Let's Encrypt and all these volume datas and everything for your, if you were to have to upgrade this and reuse it, so you want to do those volumes, but this is just quick and dirty, show you how that works. So that's all there is to it. You can get some Docker stuff up and running and get around that port 9000 issue by just going and doing those Docker stuffs. Now, Docker just straight up like that and get your own IP address, and so it opens up all the ports. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.